This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police boost coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya, from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at some of the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 14th of July, 2022, and I am Tuel.
I am Serbia.
And I am 2J, and in case you missed today's headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, 10 counties to decide winner. The Standard, inside deal that brought Sonko back. The Star, KU land tussle linked to control of hospital. And finally, in the People Daily, the return of Mike Sonko. I think we'll just get straight into it. Last night, IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati addressed the nation. And I must congratulate the Fourth Estate for putting him to task.
Yes.
But if this interview was meant to give Kenyans confidence in the IEBC, the whole country should be disbanded and everybody sent home.
Yes.
Because that interview was rubbish.
Yes.
In fact, I would go so far as to ask this bold question. Why is Chebukati lying to us? And allow me to explain the lie I accuse him of. Repeatedly, Chief Justice Martha Koome has put the IEBC on notice.
Yes.
And her words were clear that, and I quote, "This court, whenever called upon to adjudicate on a similar dispute, will reach the same decision if the anomalies remain the same, irrespective of who the aspirants may be." Very simply, she's telling Chebukati, fix the mistakes of 2017 or we will nullify the upcoming election. And this threat is completely fair. The Maraga ruling outlined its issues with the August 2017 election.
Correct.
There were illegalities and irregularities. Now, the illegalities in question spoke to the issues like corruption and intimidation. And these illegal matters often materialize on election day.
Correct.
And I will not address them right now. But irregularities are different. They refer to the transmission and declaration of results. And in our opinion, we are watching irregularities take place right in front of our eyes. So in his interview, Chebukati told us that the IEBC have been preparing for the journey to the August 9th, 2022 election since 2017. For 4 years, Chebukati and his team have been prepping for this year's election. So let's examine this so-called preparation. Section 44 of the Elections Act is very clear. It states that 60 days before the election, the IEBC shall test, verify, and deploy election technology.
Yes.
And on the 9th of June this year, IEBC conducted this test and failed miserably. What does this tell the public? That IEBC has not yet learned and fixed the issues that plagued the 2017 election.
Correct.
To make matters worse, the fact that 60% of polling stations failed this test run is a valid reason to question the results this year.
Yes.
This doesn't even cover the contradictions between Chebukati and Marjan during the interview, the obvious infighting between the commissioners, and the answer to whether Chebukati has ever been inside Wetangula's house. But after watching this interview, I was left with more questions than answers, and a sense that the IEBC has all but guaranteed a nullification of the 2022 election. And so to answer my question, why is Chebukati lying to us? I don't have an answer, but I'm convinced that this is a man who is drowning and is way over his head. The Supreme Court lay blame squarely at the feet of the IEBC in 2017. And 4 years later, nothing has changed. Instead, when asked to calm the public, Chebukati has simply told us that he doesn't have answers. Right?
You know what, 2J, on 1st of January 2008, on live TV, former Electoral Commission of Kenya boss, Samuel Kivitu, the late, was asked, Bwana Chair, who won the 2007 presidential election? He said, I do not know. When the good old man dropped those words, Kenya was already on fire. In fact, on the following day, in William Ruto's home county of Uasin Gishu, 35 Kikuyu women and children burnt alive in a church at a place called Kiambaa. Last evening, CHEBUKATI was asked how William Ruto knew that 1.1 million voters had been moved from their respective polling stations even before KPMG had released the audit of the voter register. CHEBUKATI told us, I don't know. When asked how could 1.1 million voters be moved from their voting stations and the commission was not aware, he told us, I don't know. And this is where I get worried. In fact, I thought to myself that we might as well have hired a Shamba boy as IEBC chair and kept it moving. I mean, how can you be presiding over a presidential election in just 25 days' time and your answers are, I don't know. And that's not all. About a month ago, IEBC did an election dry run, as 2J mentioned. It failed miserably. 60% of all polling stations failed to transmit results. Before that, CHEBUKATI hired a company known as a Smartmatic. According to literature out there, Smartmatic systems have failed spectacularly wherever they've been deployed, from the US to Venezuela to the Philippines to Uganda. Their software and hardware have been disastrous. In Uganda, it is alleged that the Electoral Commission there had to revert to manual systems because they deployed the Smartmatic systems crashed on election day.
What a mess.
In Venezuela, it is alleged that Smartmatic systems manipulated voter turnout by over 1 million votes. Now, the same CHEBUKATI has awarded the same company to the tender to deploy their Mkebe hardware and software in this election. And you know what? Should the electronic voting system fail and CHEBUKATI is asked what happened, the man will say, I don't know. We want to tell CHEBUKATI this. 25 days time, the fate of Kenya will be in your hands. Whether or not you're in bed with William Ruto, you know you are. If Kenya bans, you will be attracting Praetorian conditions. Too differently, should Kenya ban because of your present actions, you will be inviting Jeshi to clean up your mess. And should they move in, prepare for martial law.
You know what's so scary? When they were asked about the Smartmatic issues around the world, as you've just outlined to them, and they were asked, were you aware of it when you were doing the tender process? They gave that very same response. We don't know.
We don't know. I mean, how?
How can you say that you didn't do your due diligence while tendering a company that was going to execute the election?
CHEBUKATI is the chief returning officer of the presidential election. If he is not even aware ballot papers are arriving the following day, what business does he have becoming the chair or being the chair of the electoral commission? It just tells you that's the face of incompetence.
We're heading into a crisis.
Interesting. Now on to the hustlers. Today, I would like to engage in a thought experiment. A world thought experiment at that. Supposing William Ruto were to win the August election, in the unlikely event that he does, I want to bet that his first order of business will be to fix Rigathi Gachagua in the first 100 days. Remember, in politics, coalitions are short-term arrangements between long-term competitors. Ruto, being a thorough student of Moi and a master in Machiavellian politics, will no doubt turn to the Moi cookbook of politics. Rule number one that he will turn to, that a conquering ruler must first get rid of kingmakers and any other kings in waiting. Principle number two, Machiavelli tells us that the prince must do all the bad things at once and do good things slowly. Ruto knows that in order to rule with ease, he must first destroy all real and imagined threats to his power, swiftly and drastically. This hypothesis is not far-fetched. You see, 2 weeks ago in Tharaka Nithi, Ruto told the Tharaka people that he was mentoring the Yaman Kindiki for a bigger role in national politics. Remember also that Ruto has made Kindiki sacrifice big time in his own political ambitions. You may recall that on account of siding with Ruto, Kindiki was ejected from the Senate Deputy Speaker seat in 2020. Then, Ruto persuaded him not to run for the gubernatorial race, promising him a bigger role. But then, at the last minute, Ruto said no to Kindiki being his running mate. So, Ruto not only owes Kindiki big time, but what is more evident is that he has always had grand plans for Kithure Kindiki. Plans which he has not shelved. Plans that will in fact materialize in the first 100 days of his term. The plot is simple. Impeach Gachagua and replace him with Kindiki. So, why will he do this? First, Gachagua is a strong rival to Ruto. Politicians, like similar poles of a magnet, repel each other violently. Ruto and Gachagua are too much alike to work together harmoniously. Second, the UDA party does not like Gachagua. Since his announcement as running mate, Gachagua has been nothing but a liability for William Ruto and the party. Third, Gachagua has no support on the ground except in Nyeri. Just yesterday, he had to run for his dear life as he was stoned and chased like a burukenge by Meru residents. Have you asked yourself why Ruto was accompanied by Kindiki and not Gachagua at the IEBC consultative meeting a few weeks ago? It seems Gashagua's star is fading just as quickly as it appeared. Yeah. Are there grounds for Gashagua's removal? Yes, solid ones. Yes. His corruption cases, which are currently ongoing. Yeah. This will be weaponized by Ruto to engineer his exit. Yeah. Yes. And unlike Ruto, who has presidential immunity by virtue of Article 143 of the Constitution, Gachagua is as naked as the day he was born, legally speaking. Within the first 100 days, expect Gashagua's court cases to be expedited and perhaps even a conviction given before the year is over. Remember, last month Ruto told us that he will empower state agencies that prosecute graft cases and he won't interfere. And he also told us that he will not shield Gachagua from corruption cases and he will even jail him if found culpable. But a final reason why Ruto wants to engineer this scheme is because Kindiki is pliable and malleable. Generally, Kindiki will be spineless when it comes to protecting and furthering the interests of the Mount Kenya people.
Oh, absolutely.
For now, all that is left is for both Ruto and Gachagua to play the game of bluff. Bluff is a card game in which players must get rid of all their cards in order to win, and the game ends when only one player has only one card left, which will give him an advantage. We are yet to find out who has an ace up their sleeve between Ruto and Gachagua. But until then, they can only put their best foot forward and hope not to lose the election.
Sorbiel, let me ask you, if Kindiki is being mentored by William Ruto, do you think he'll end up being Carlos the Jackal?
Anyway, on that note, we have a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines by. We ask ourselves, is a headline topical or speculative? Repetitive or groundbreaking? And finally, thoughtful or just plain lazy? To him, that was a plain lazy joke. I think that after...
That's a joke.
A dad's joke. I think after what happened in the Mombasa courts yesterday, I think we ought to give the winning headline to the People Daily, the return of Mike Sonko.
Absolutely.
I will admit, I do not understand the appeal of Mike Sonko, but there are people who do, so we'll give it to them, right? In that case, the People Daily gives us our winning headline. There was something interesting that CHEBUKATI said yesterday during the interview that got me thinking. He told us that exactly 5 years ago, on the 28th of July 2017, Charles Msando was murdered. And yeah, it got me thinking about what Prof always says about succession elections, that they attract just two things: assassinations and constitutional crises. We are yet to have an assassination that we know of, but I think we are staring a constitutional crisis in the face. I guess we'll just see what happens, right? Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget we're also on your TV screens. You can find us on Pang Free to Air, GoTV, and Star Times. Have a lovely but thoughtful evening, and we will see you tomorrow.